Reclaiming Timeless Ways, another episode underway. This is Mike Traster. I'm Simon Fuller. Glad to have you along with us. We kick off another show, always encouraging you to please subscribe and also share this YouTube channel. We always we aspire to give little tidbits of information in hopes that it might be a seed that gets planted in yours or somebody you know's world and grow and blossom, bloom into something good and meaningful. And so today we're going to be talking about what, Mike, and maybe give some takeaways on what topic.
You are not powerless and not hopeless. Okay?
Yeah.
And there's circumstances that happen, like my car wreck,
Yep.
or somebody's illness, or an accident, or an injustice, right? And there could be other things, right? Some existential crisis that somebody goes through where they lose track of their own meaning or value. Right?
Sure.
So the first one that comes to mind, and I just wrote these down at random, is sick. So a person is sick. Do they give up? Let's say they have a bad prognosis, right? There was a story I heard. Guy gets a prognosis, he's given about 5 years to live, right? And it's Thanksgiving. He just got the diagnosis like a week earlier, and he kept it to himself, but he's sitting there at the table, and he's like looking down at his plate, and everybody sees he's freaked out. And they're like, what's wrong? What's going on, And he's like, oh, I got some bad news, and he can hardly speak, And they're like, well, tell us. So he tells them, well, okay, so what's your, time? And he says, well, with the way that things are right now, about 5 years. They're like, oh, that's terrible, he's pretty young, like 40, 45. And so he's kind of crying quietly, and some of the people around him are falling apart. They finally get through their dinner, and a week later, the healthiest and most fit person in the family dies in a wreck. Boom! Meanwhile, this guy's got 5 years. Right? So it's like, suddenly, this is very different.
Yeah.
Right? Very different. And it's like, not only does the other guy who was like Superman, he was like made out of granite and stainless steel, right?
Yeah.
Indestructible, just about. But, so now this guy's got 5 years, but he's got 5 years during which time there might be 5 significant technological breakthroughs that might give him another 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, right? So, powerless means hopeless, right? And it's easy to talk ourselves into that, to look down that dark tunnel,
Sure.
right?
Well, because in some cases it might seem easier.
It does, right? And one of the things is that it's humiliating to self and others, and it's just ultimately exhausting to create hope. It feels exhausting. It feels scary to create hope and then lose, like you're putting all your bets, all your money on that one bet. Maybe it only comes through a little instead of 100%.
Right.
But it's something, it's not nothing, or maybe that's not it. So you're afraid of you're so afraid of being disappointed or disappointing others that you want to give up instead of losing hope again. Mm-hmm. So that kind of perspective can beat the hope out of you. But if you stop and you look at it and you go, wait a minute, what am I talking myself out of here? Right? This is a conversation I've had with people on a number of, sick, hurt, same idea, bullied. Somebody gets bullied, a little guy, 90 pounds, and he's getting the crap kicked out of him at school all the time. And somebody comes up to him and he goes, my brother teaches as your pup, which I'm happy to see her.
Trying to make an appearance on the show today. Olive is in the back door there.
You want to keep her out or let her in?
I suppose she's not going to let me not let her.
She's too beautiful. Hello, beautiful. How are you? Yeah. So Anyway, he's got a brother who was maybe a martial arts instructor in the military.
Sure.
So the guy teaches him some basic self-defense, the first part of which is he's afraid to be hit, you know. So he desensitizes him. Maybe he starts by doing this, and then he'll do that, you know, and then he'll do it harder, right? And it's like, did that really hurt, or was it just a little unpleasant?
Right.
Right. Oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought, all right, or gives him a shove, like, or he says, okay, now you shove me. Yeah, no, you're gonna hurt me. No, I'm not, you know. So he desensitizes him, then he gets him mentally and physically stronger, and after a while, maybe he busts a guy's nose or wrist, and, or ribs, and suddenly people are like, leave him alone, he's crazy, right? There's better fish to go catch.
Right.
Forget that one, right? His teeth are filed sharp, right? Unemployed. Unemployed means you no longer have value, you're shamed, right? What's gonna happen to me? You know, maybe I put on a big show. I take people out to dinner. I have my car payments are too high, but I was kind of kicking the can forward.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I was paying debt, one credit card with another one, and now I'm out of work, and maybe my illusion is coming due.
Yeah.
Right? So how do I talk to myself? If I'm pushing too hard, people are going to see my desperation. I'm not going to get hired, right? So you have to look at yourself and say, well, you know, am I going to have a frank conversation with a prospective employer, or am I going to try to look like Mr. Perfect?
Yeah.
Because then you look desperate,
Right.
right? And what happens? We're rejected. Oh, this person rejected me, and they were the symbol of my being attractive or acceptable,
Sure.
or the reason why I felt proud. They're my evidence of me being okay, right? Well, maybe you gave them too much power. Maybe the question isn't now what do I do because I'm nobody. Maybe the real question is, did they make me somebody, or was I somebody before I met them?
Yeah.
Did I go from being nobody to somebody, and now I'm nobody again?
Sure.
So who was it that they met? If 2 minutes before they met me, if I was no one, how could they meet me? Because I didn't exist, right? It's like, so you got to look at the roots
Yeah.
of your thinking, right? Where is this imagery coming from? What is the emotional tale I'm feeling? I'm not saying it on an intellectual basis, but I'm feeling it strongly. Defamed or canceled, right? You're not powerless.
Right.
You can look at somebody and say to them, you know, there's been some crap been spread around town about me, whoever you are, one is, and I'm not going to defend myself. You want to believe it? Fine. Show me your evidence.
Yeah.
You're not going to find evidence because it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Am I going to get into a crap throwing contest with the person that's doing this? No.
Right.
Because we'll just wind up suing each other for defamation. It will never end, right? But if you know me because you know how I'm consistent.
Yeah.
Right? What does who you know me to be, which is we are what we do,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
Right. So if you know who I am, and that's not consistent with what is being said, are you going to judge me, or are you going to judge the message?
Yeah.
Right? But again, you give how much power emotionally do you give the roots of those thoughts, right? So now all of a sudden you picked up a weapon. What's your weapon? The truth.
Yeah.
That's a good weapon,
Yeah.
right? Isolation of self creates powerlessness at a certain point. Now we all have a very different style, My style is to be somewhat solitudinous. I would say I'm 70% solitude, 20 to 30% social.
Sure.
So I'm not what you describe as hypersocial,
Sure.
right? And when I interact, I interact with a tremendous amount of energy. And when I'm done, I'm tired.
Yeah.
That's me,
Right.
right? Now, maybe you're 50-50 or 80-20 the opposite way,
Yeah.
right? But the thing is, when people completely isolate, it's probably not healthy.
Yeah.
So we can adjust that,
Yeah.
you know? Find a way to adjust it. Seek hope, you know? And this gets back to the person that's sick or hurt or bullied or unemployed. You know, what do? Do they look for hope? Do they look for evidence of hope or hopelessness?
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the root, when you're asking yourself, am I screwing myself here? You ask yourself one question: am I creating hope with my brain, with my comic book in my head of reality, my reality story, right? Am I creating hope or hopelessness?
Whatever you go looking for, Mike, you will find.
That's so true.
You know, if you're looking for hopelessness,
Right.
there are things that you will see that will reinforce that thought.
Right.
And if you're seeking hope and opportunity and better outlook, there are things out there that will bring you into that light too.
So I want to repeat what you just said. Whatever you are looking for, you will find.
Bingo.
Okay? Now, I would never have thought to say that. And that's why the conversation is probably 100 times more powerful than one person talking to themselves.
And I just get to thinking, and I know I'm not the only one. I don't know how many others share this, but something bad happens. It doesn't even have to be catastrophic. So something happens today that irritates me, annoys me, throws me for a loop. Somebody says something, like as you were bringing up the whole concept of the defamation side of it. And I can't tell you how often I see somebody sling something on like a social media that's just so negative and destructive. You can decide what to do with that information.
That's true.
And if you leave it here and you decide to just cycle it like a tornado in the brain,
Right.
you can do that. Like I
can.
say, you go looking for it, you'll find it.
Right.
And you can sit there, I can sit there, and I've sat there before, I'm saying with experience, and let that waste 1 to 6 hours of my day in a pissed off state of mind.
Right.
Or not. Or I can go find something positive. I can go do something positive and cancel out that negative. And it's that's easier said than done, but we can do it. We have the power to do it, Mike. And boy, I guess I don't know what more to say other than look for the good.
It's interesting, you and I have a similar visual tool that we use. You say a tornado, I say circle thinking.
Yeah.
It was almost identical when you think about it, you know? Find a way to fight when you're dealing. You have to think about your strategy, right? I got royally screwed over by an insurance company when I got hurt. And they were going to be closed down by the insurance commissioner in the state where I was hurt. And she couldn't close them down because there wasn't enough depth in the industry to pick up all their accounts. That's how they survived. So, and they defrauded me, period. So what I did is I figured out a 2-minute conversation which included people's feedback, right? So I wasn't talking at them, but with them. And I told 6 people a day for 5 years. Changed, let's just say that their karma was radically altered financially.
Yeah.
You know, they were the most trusted insurance company and blah, blah, blah. They weren't anymore. You know, I figured out how to fight. Diminished, we get diminished.
Yeah.
It's not dead.
Right.
It's not, you know. And hard is not hopeless.
Right.
You know, and those are kind of the same thing.
Right.
You know, but they're really important because it's like when it hits the fan, and it hits a fan royally, it's hard to come back.
Yeah.
It is hard, and you can acknowledge that. Sometimes if a person is so paralyzed with their grief and their fear, that they hold that in. That's literally that statement, this is so hard. And you see that when a person is talking and they're hiding the baseline statement, this is so hard, I don't know how I'm going to be able to deal with. When they say those words, usually they open up the floodgate of emotions. They weep, you
Right.
know. They might holler, they might turn a table over or smash something, but they're emoting. Now their energy is moving. When their energy is moving, unless they walked through the wall like Frankenstein, their anger is a higher state,
Yeah.
as long as it's intelligently directed.
Yeah.
And pure depression, where you're not allowing that energy to move,
Yeah.
right? It keeps you stuck. But when they're scared, and then they express with their fear, they also re-experience their anger, their outrage, right? Now they can begin to gather their tools to fight.
Sure.
So that's not powerless.
Yeah.
Not powerless.
Be hopeful, not hopeless.
Yeah.
You are not powerless. All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for
you.
joining us. I encourage you to subscribe and share our YouTube channel. And until next time, we wish you a fantastic day.